This video is an original documentary-style history episode created by Noir Mafia Stories, featuring original script writing, historical research, custom visual prompts, editing, narration, music, and sound design. Los Angeles did not look like a mafia city. It looked like sunshine. It looked like palm trees, movie lights, bright hotels, expensive cars, and people arriving every day to become famous. But that was only the picture sold to the public. Behind the studios, behind the clubs, behind the gambling rooms and police favors, another Los Angeles was being built. It did not need a skyline like New York. It did not need a war like Chicago. Los Angeles had something better, illusion. And in a city built on illusion, crime learned how to hide in plain sight. Los Angeles was different from the older crime cities. New York had crowded streets. Chicago had open war. Los Angeles had sunlight, distance, and a clean public image. That made the city perfect for hiding dirty money. In the 1920s and 1930s, people came west looking for work, fame, health, and escape. Criminals came for the same reason. They saw a city growing faster than its laws could control. When Prohibition arrived, Los Angeles did not become dry. It became more profitable. Alcohol moved through back rooms, private clubs, hotel basements, beach towns, and desert roads. Every bottle created a new relationship between bootleggers, police officers, politicians, drivers, bartenders, and men willing to protect the route. The city learned early that morality laws could create millionaire criminals. Los Angeles had a weapon inland cities did not have: the Pacific coast. Boats, docks, beaches, and quiet coves became part of the business. Smuggling did not always need loud violence. Sometimes it needed darkness, timing, and the right man looking the other way. The ocean helped make crime feel invisible. Organized crime rarely survives on muscle alone. It needs permission. Sometimes that permission is official. Sometimes it is purchased quietly. In Los Angeles, vice, gambling, prostitution, bootlegging, and protection rackets all depended on one question: who was being paid to not see it? Before Los Angeles became famous for Mickey Cohen and Bugsy Siegel, local crime already had its own hierarchy. Men like Joseph Ardizone and later Jack Dragna belonged to an older underworld world. Family ties, bootlegging, gambling, extortion, and quiet power. They were not Hollywood celebrities. They preferred the shadows. Jack Dragna was not the loudest gangster in Los Angeles. That was part of his power. He understood that the West Coast did not need to be ruled like New York. It needed to be managed. Gambling, loans, vice, and influence could produce more money than street theater. Dragna represented the old LA Mafia, patient, territorial, and careful. Los Angeles expanded outward like no other American city. Roads stretched, neighborhoods spread. New money arrived. New people arrived. Law enforcement could not watch everything. That distance helped the underworld. A gambling room could be downtown, a payoff could happen in a hotel, and a body could disappear miles away in the dark hills or desert roads. Hollywood was not just entertainment. It was money, fame, nightlife, gossip, private parties, and reputations that had to be protected. The more valuable an image became, the more dangerous a scandal became. Where there is fear of exposure, there is opportunity for blackmail, protection, favors, and quiet influence. The nightlife economy was perfect for organized crime. Clubs needed alcohol, protection, musicians, girls, gambling, and police tolerance. Every night created cash. Every cash business created a reason for criminals to appear. Los Angeles nightlife was not only pleasure, it was infrastructure. When Prohibition money started to shift, gambling became even more important. Cards, dice, bookmaking, horse races, private casinos, and later offshore gambling operations all fed the same appetite. The public saw entertainment. The underworld saw a machine that printed cash every night. One of the strangest symbols of the Los Angeles underworld was the gambling ship. Offshore casinos tried to exist just beyond easy control, close enough for customers, far enough for legal confusion. The ocean became more than a smuggling route. It became a floating loophole. Tony Carnero became one of the names tied to this floating gambling world. Men like him understood the geography of California crime. The city, the sea, the desert, and the border all offered escape routes. Los Angeles crime was not boxed into alleys. It spread across space. The city could tolerate vice only so long before scandal became dangerous. Reformers, prosecutors, journalists, and honest officers began pushing back. But every raid raised another question. Was the city cleaning itself or only deciding who was allowed to keep operating? By the late 1930s, corruption was no longer just a rumor whispered in clubs. It became newspaper material. Political scandal showed that Los Angeles did not only have criminal outsiders, it had weaknesses inside official power. And organized crime always studies weakness. California authorities, including Attorney General Earl Warren, pushed hard against the gambling ships. The raids were more than law enforcement. They were a message. The old arrangement was changing. Crime could still make money, but it had to adapt again. Los Angeles was not isolated forever. National crime figures saw the West Coast as a new frontier. Movie money, gambling money, hotel money, and eventually desert money. The city became a meeting point between local power and national ambition. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel brought a different kind of gangster image to Los Angeles. He was violent, connected, stylish, and close to national syndicate power. In Hollywood, he found a city that loved dangerous charm. Siegel understood that in Los Angeles, reputation could be built like a movie. Siegel fit the city because Los Angeles blurred the line between performance and power. A gangster could become a public character. A criminal could sit beside movie people and look almost respectable. That glamour made the underworld harder to recognize. Mickey Cohen did not begin as a polished boss. He came out of the streets, boxing gyms, gambling circles, and hustle culture of Los Angeles. He was short, loud, ambitious, and built for attention. Where Dragna was quiet, Cohen was spectacle. Los Angeles would eventually have room for both, until it did not. The Sunset Strip became one of the great stages of West Coast vice. Clubs, celebrities, bookmaking, prostitution, gambling, and police attention all crossed paths there. It was not just nightlife, it was territory. And territory always attracts men who want tribute. Johnny Roselli became one of the figures associated with the connection between organized crime and entertainment circles. He represented a larger truth. The underworld did not need to own every studio. It only needed access to people, unions, clubs, favors, and information. Jack Dragna had spent years building local control. But men connected to the national syndicate brought pressure from outside. Los Angeles was becoming too valuable to be left alone. The question was no longer who could run a neighborhood. The question was who could control the whole Western pipeline. The future of Los Angeles crime did not stop at the city limits. The desert began to matter. Las Vegas was still becoming the symbol it would later be, but men with gambling instincts could already imagine what was possible. Los Angeles money, Hollywood names, and desert casinos would soon become connected. Bugsy Siegel became tied to the Flamingo Dream in Las Vegas. It was more than a casino. It was a vision of crime money becoming resort money, of gambling becoming luxury, of violence hiding behind neon. But big dreams create big suspicion when costs rise and partners lose patience. In June 1947, Siegel was killed in Beverly Hills. Officially, the murder remained unsolved. Symbolically, it was clear what the moment meant. Glamour did not protect a gangster from the rules of the business. Los Angeles had given Siegel celebrity. It did not give him safety. After Siegel's death, Mickey Cohen became one of the most visible names in the Los Angeles underworld. He had the connections, the attitude, and the hunger for publicity. He did not rule like Dragna. He performed power. And in Los Angeles, performance could be dangerous. Mickey Cohen's world was filled with bodyguards, armored cars, thick windows, and constant threat. That alone tells the truth about his power. A man does not need bulletproof glass unless he knows the city wants him dead. Fame made him visible. Visibility made him a target. To Dragna, Cohen was more than a rival. He was disorder. Cohen attracted headlines, police pressure, and national attention. Dragna's power depended on quiet control. Cohen's power depended on noise. The two styles could not peacefully share the same city forever. Attempts on Cohen and his circle made the underworld visible to ordinary people. Restaurants, clubs, cars, sidewalks, the places of nightlife became places of fear. Los Angeles could no longer pretend the violence belonged somewhere else. The war had moved into the city's public face. One of the most famous attacks came outside Sherry's Cafe on the Sunset Strip, where Cohen was wounded. The image was perfect noir, a glamorous strip, bright neon, expensive clothes, reporters, police, and a gangster who survived again. Cohen's survival became part of his legend. Mickey Cohen understood publicity. Reporters loved him because he was quotable, dramatic, and dangerous. But every headline also increased pressure on police and politicians. In a city obsessed with image, Cohen became a public relations problem for everyone around him. Los Angeles vice was not just gambling. Prostitution, call houses, nightlife favors, and blackmail networks all required protection. Women involved in the vice economy often depended on dangerous men for survival and cover. Behind glamour, the business could be brutal. Scandals over vice and police corruption forced Los Angeles to look at itself. If crime survived for years, it was not only because gangsters were clever, it was because parts of the system were weak, compromised, or afraid. The underworld was not outside the city. It was threaded through it. Reform did not arrive because the city suddenly became pure. It arrived because the old arrangements became too embarrassing. Los Angeles wanted to protect its image. Hollywood sold dreams. Real estate sold paradise. Organized crime threatened the advertisement. When bullets and raids could not fully break a gangster, paperwork often could. Tax cases became one of the sharpest tools against public criminals. Money had to come from somewhere, and when the story on paper did not match the life on the street, the government had a path. Cohen's public image made him famous, but fame could not erase federal pressure. The government did not need to prove every rumor. It needed numbers, income, records, and contradictions. The louder Cohen became, the easier he was to study. By the early 1950s, Los Angeles was changing again. Freeways, suburbs, television, new policing, and federal attention altered the terrain. The old rackets did not vanish overnight, but the city that created them was transforming. Crime had to become less visible, or risk being crushed by the spotlight. Los Angeles never looked like the classic mafia capital. That is exactly why its underworld is powerful for storytelling. Crime here wore better clothes, used brighter rooms, sat closer to cameras, and hid behind sunshine. The city did not make crime disappear. It made crime photogenic. The Los Angeles underworld was never just about money. It was about image, who looked respectable, who looked untouchable, who looked connected, who looked famous, and who looked too dangerous to cross. In a city built to manufacture illusion, image became a weapon. Los Angeles sold sunshine better than any city in America. But behind the dream were men who understood vice, gambling, protection, publicity, corruption, and fear. Jack Dragna wanted quiet control. Bugsy Siegel brought national glamour. Mickey Cohen turned crime into theater. And the city around them kept smiling for the camera. That was the secret of Los Angeles. It did not look guilty. It looked beautiful. This was an original Noir Mafia Stories documentary-style history episode, created with original script writing, historical research, custom visual prompts, editing, narration, music, and sound design. Subscribe for the next city in America's hidden underworld.